Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdsson, World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here I am, John Sneisen, and this story is mighty convenient for the world order. As RT.com reports, US threatens to cut China off from dollar if it does not uphold sanctions against North Korea. And of course, we've gone into this kind of before, past sanctions. There have been one sanction after another against Russia, against China. China has actually made threats against the United States. If you strike first, we're not on your side. If North Korea strikes first, we are on your side. Really confusing nonsense and mumbo jumbo from one statist actor to another. And this report goes a bit deeper, though, than the past ones, because when we're talking about them cutting China off the US dollar, we're talking about exactly what China wanted in the first place, because they are moving towards the SDR, moving towards the IMF, which is talking about basing itself in Beijing in the next few years, and China's going cashless and pushing towards a cashless society. We'll go into that more in a second. But first, as the article says, the U.S. could impose economic sanctions on China if it does not implement the new sanctions regime against North Korea. The U.S. Treasury Secretary has warned. Steve Mnuchin said the restrictions could involve cutting off Beijing's access to the U.S. financial system. North Korea economic warfare works, Mnuchin said Tuesday at the Delivering Alpha conference in New York City. We sent a message that anybody who wanted to trade with North Korea, we would consider them not trading with us. Now, Mnuchin is a dirtbag. He's got a long career of being a dirtbag, and now he's got way too much power, and he is doing exactly what the globalist world order has been wanting for so long. The absolute power shift towards China, which has been taking place, especially since the 1970s when Henry Kissinger met with Mao Zedong, leading to the Trilateral Commission under Zbigniew Brzezinski, the technocratic creation of a society based in blockchain, AI, not cryptocurrency, but a digital currency that's centralized. And we've been seeing this come to fruition for many years, and it's finally come to its precipice. And now there's this move to cut China off the U.S. dollar and the U.S. financial system. Oh, poor China. John, can you go into this?
Well, before we actually get into the U.S. threatening China to actually get off the shove them out of the US dollar world reserve currency system. We got to remember what China is doing right now and been doing for a very long time, since 2008, since the crises. China was starting to make the move of a de-dollarized world. And everybody's talking about it. If you go and listen to a lot of the experts, they know that this is coming, because any empirical currency that have been traded around the world for a while, and then suddenly it just accumulates so much of it in the world. Yeah. And then at one point, even though you're trading it through the world, because if it was only in the United States, the US dollar probably in the form that it was from 71 wouldn't existed very long. So what happened was they exported all these dollars everywhere and had a vast amount of US dollars. Like there's about $16 trillion worldwide in different trades going on, in all the debt that the United States has in US bonds.
Well, wait, you're saying that the central banking system rigs stuff? No way.
No, that's not true. No, of course it's true. The Exchange Stabilization Fund was a part of this to stabilize the dollar.
Yeah.
And now, of course, it's working hard, because the US dollar is currently being devalued because, everybody flooded into the US dollar and the US dollar value went slowly upwards. But now, of course, Trump and everybody doesn't want that, because if you have a strong currency in today's world, you can't sell anything to anybody else. Nobody wants it. So now they're cheapening the currency again, and you're gonna. This is what happened right before 2008 crash, where everybody was flooding into the dollar, but now you're seeing the outflow of the dollar, and everybody's moving out of it. Now the bigger thing now than in 2008, we're seeing vast amounts of U.S. debt that is actually being sold off, and actually threatened to sold off, like Saudi Arabia has been threatening, because the United States have said that they're gonna release the documents exposing that the Saudi Arabians was involved in 9/11, but of course they didn't really do that, so that didn't come out as they were saying. But anyways, going back to this de-dollarization, because of course Mnuchin is threatening. What he is doing is It's one of the last desperate attempts from the United States because it became such a massive empire to just they're delusional on thinking that they could cut off China off of the system. Well, China has already been very busy. And if you can take a look, Josh, scrolling down here, you can see from 2008 to 2015, and this is not currently completely updated because it's missing 2 years.
And Nepal.
Yeah, and Nepal, which is interesting, right? But what this show, all these billions of yuan here, these are swaps that they're called, and it's trade in between countries without United States dollars. That is a massive move that nobody is really talking about too much out there. You see, like, it's coming out in the news. There's lots of news articles about they call it currency swaps with renminbis between other countries. So what this is, it's the move away from the US dollar, and he is threatening to cut people off of the US dollars. People have been busy cutting themselves away from the US dollar for a very long time, so it's nothing new. And if he does this, you got to remember, Chinese have about $2 trillion in US bonds that they could suddenly sell off and collapse the US bond market and the US dollar, as they would shove $2 trillion of new currency back into the United States and massively inflate everything.
Well, I just wanted to correct one thing that you said there, John. You said that they were delusional, and I don't really think that that's a case, because this is such a perfect storm for the creation of the special drawing rights, world currency under the cashless system, the centralized cashless system. Just look at it this way. China pushes towards this cashless system. There's all this power shift going towards China, and on top of that, like I said, IMF wants to base themselves in Beijing in the next few years. They have been developing that cashless system to max powers here, to the point where they are quickly exceeding the rest of the world in its creation, other than perhaps India with their retina scans, etc., and the push in Australia and Sweden and Canada, etc. But China is on the forefront of this, and they are capitalizing on this. They are a quasi-communist country and a quasi-technocratic society. And that combination is very dangerous. And of course, world leaders want as much control as they possibly can. They want centralized control.
China is the best vehicle that they can find.
Yeah, and this is just such a perfect storm for the global monetary system. This is exactly what they needed. 1, a war. 2, an entire power shift towards a cashless system in China implemented under the SDR, which of course is the world currency. And as I so often say here at WHAM, if your money's in the bank, it's not yours, it's a bank's. And if your money's always going through the banks, through digital transactions, centralization, and legal tender laws, you never hold it in your hand. It's always the bank's, it's never yours. And you are essentially enslaved to the banking system and the government. That is incredibly dangerous, folks. And what is being pushed forward here just seems exactly like what they wanted all along, as actually Mnuchin is echoing the words of UN Secretary Nikki Haley when it comes to actually pushing this forward to actually cut China off from this system. It is not, I just don't see it as, I know you know this, John, but it's just, I don't see it as delusional. I see it as incredibly smart, which is exactly why it's incredibly dangerous.
Well, what you're seeing is a passing of the baton, if you can call it, between empires. It's the United States is, a falling empire. They've been on the down slope for, ever since 1971, really, when they went off the gold. They, made some deals in order to actually ship their currency worldwide to not, face inflation. Because you got to remember, if all that currency was in the United States right now, that inflation and prices would be so crazy high. It would be ridiculous. So what they did is they, of course, just shipped it out of the of U.S. borders, so they didn't see it as inflation in the United States. But if you account for all that money coming in, the United States dollar will, severely hyperinflate itself. And that's what's happening here. It's this slow move over to another empire. And this is happening throughout history, all over the place. But what I'm worried about, and I think we might see, is a war between, who's going to be the big like have the most power in the United Nations when, you know, the whole thing gets implemented.
I feel like a war these days would last 6 seconds with the kind of bombs that these countries have, and it kind of worries me. But I mean, it's just it's wrong on so many levels, and I think it's a perfect example of why we need to be, you know, financially responsible and self-sufficient, and understand these problems, understand this news, because this news coincides with the news out of the UN of creating a global New Deal and creating an entire United Nations economic structure worldwide that is exactly what they've been pushing towards for so long. And I mean, I remember reading the Bilderberg documents last year, the leaked Bilderberg documents, where they were going into this in the 70s, 80s, 90s, how the IMF will be the world government and it will implement these currencies. And people say that's conspiracy theory. These are people, the top most powerful people on the planet in governments and banks, are saying this. This isn't conspiracy theory. It's conspiracy fact. They are scheming.
They are conspiring.
They are conspiring. They're scheming to do something against us that will put us at a disadvantage and put them at an advantage, put us in debt slavery, put them in total centralized control over the entire world. That's the epitome of a conspiracy.
Well, what they want is they want ultimate power, and the only way to really get ultimate power today is the United Nations, and implement that as the government.
Absolutely. Well, finishing it off, I hope you guys heed the warning. Everything we've been saying for years now has been just coming true, one after the other, and I wish so much that we were wrong, but we aren't wrong on these issues because it's official fact coming from these people themselves. You can't just put hashtag fake news in the comments like so many of you guys often do. I'm not talking about the good viewers that watch us on a regular basis, but these people that just don't watch any of the video, click on it, I see it in the analytics, 10 seconds of viewership, and you comment fake news. These are facts, and if you want to ignore them, so be it. But see how that turns out for you in the long term. This is about protecting ourselves. You need to know the negatives to create a positive. You need to know the negatives to be prepared. And if you aren't prepared, then you will face the consequences of this world order that is coming full scale on our doorsteps, in our doors, already burning down our house.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna finish off with one quote from Winston Churchill: the farther you look back into the past, the further you can look into the future.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna finish off with a quote by Mark Twain: "History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes," and that's exactly what we are seeing today. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for going into this with us, John. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth,
be the change.
Now to sound like an auctioneer. Thanks for watching, everyone. Check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so vastly demonetized and censored by YouTube as they bring in the Anti-Defamation League to flag all of our content as hate speech. Also check our Bitcoin address in the description in the comments, as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And don't forget to check me out at Josh Sigurdson at Steemit.com. That's Steemit.com, the future of social media, where you get paid via cryptocurrency, Steem that is, by the upvote and demand of your post. It's bound to take out the dinosaur social media, so I hope to see you there. But until next time, check out this word from our sponsor.
Are you looking to exchange a large amount of US dollars? Don't overpay with the bank on currency exchange. Think outside the bank. Banks charge unnecessary fees of up to 3%. Truth be told, currency exchange with the bank will cost you hundreds to thousands of dollars. Start saving now. Step 1. Register online. Visit our website and click Get Started. Step 2. Book a transaction. Phone us for a quote and to complete the transaction. We'll need to know which currencies you are converting and how much. Step 3. Transfer of funds. Once you confirm the transaction, we initiate an electronic funds transfer from the account that you choose. Your purchased funds are then transferred back to you in the account that you choose within 1 business day. It's that easy. Start saving hundreds of dollars on currency exchange with CBCE. Sign up online or give us a call today.